Hey everyone, welcome back. Behind me is this K10, which doesn't look very tall because I'm wearing stilts. Just kidding. We don't have any springs on this, so it's all the way down at the bump stops that we made in the last episode. This time, we're gonna be pulling the cab off. Everything, all of our suspension components are coming off so we could get them all painted.
All three boys are grinding away on the chassis, getting this thing ready for paint. While they're over here working, making all that dust and all that noise. I'll come outside and make some of my own dust and noise. But we got the firewall that we've been working on here. I'm gonna go ahead and sand this down, hopefully apply one more coat and get this thing ready for our high build primer. And we can get some paint on it, man. All right, we got our firewall all ready to go. This was a couple rounds of Bondo, sanded it down with 80 grit, 120, 220. Now we're gonna give this thing a nice clean wipe down. We're gonna tape off our line here from there up so we can hit this whole firewall with some high build primer, and then we're gonna go ahead and block it out.
All right, so we're transitioning from the exterior to the interior of the K10 cab, getting the AC mounted up. We're using a Restomod Haymaker S unit, just like we do in all our other builds. It's their largest capacity unit, so we'll make sure that this cab stays nice and cool. We have a little bit of a tight space in these square bodies here, but one thing that I want to note is that we're going to be using new bench seat from TMI, and it's going to utilize a compartment for storage instead of our glove box here. I tried to fit it up there, but there's really no way that this unit is going to fit on here and we'll still be able to have this big pocket. I have a couple different mounting options for getting this onto the firewall. These mounting brackets, as well as some hardware and some weld-on studs if you choose to just have it bolt directly to the firewall instead of using brackets. One, two, three, four, all welded in. Now is the moment of truth. Yeah. All right, so it looks like it fits, but having a little bit of a weird deal down here. So I got the hole right, but I guess I could probably just go up one size on that hole, and we have a pretty large fastener. It's got a flange head on it, so bigger hole won't be too big of a deal. So I elongated my hole right there a little bit bigger because I don't know if you can see the stud is like pointing down. Next we got to do the bulkhead for all the heater hoses and the Freon lines. Probably gonna dump out back in here where the fresh air door used to be. All right, now I've got my main location mapped out where I want it to land. Pretty compound curved area. And then right here it bends down also. I want to keep it relatively simple. I have the bulkheads here. And I got to map these out in this area here where it's nice and flat. And then another thing I have to do is account for the fitting that's going to go on the end of the hose that's going to connect to here. So this is going to have to be recessed slightly. The hose end to be pointing out into the fender just about maybe like a quarter to half an inch past the actual body. So now I've got the hole cut, and now I'm going to begin building out the box. I'm going to use the original template to make my mounting surface in the back, so that'll be the base where the sides go. And then from that point, I'll build my structure up, making a box. We'll bolt the fender back up to get that final measurement of the total overall height. But what we'll have to do is, the reason we're building out the box is to get this fitting to come out in 90 right inside this 2-inch space inside the fender. All right, right, so it took a few minutes, trimmed down my piece. Now it fits perfectly inside of our hole. Now this is gonna be the base where these bulkheads goes directly through, just like this. And so now I'm gonna be able to build out the depth I need, and that'll be recessed into this area in the fender. So before I start cutting material for that, I'm gonna put the fender back on and take my depth measurement to get it exactly where I need these fittings. Now I know what the depth of the fender to my cutout on the body is. It's 2.5 inches. Here I have the fitting and the bulkhead that I'm gonna be using, and I have it set up at the edge of the table. So imagine the edge of the table being the outer skin of the fender. 2.5 inches was where the sheet metal ends up. So another 1/2 inch, another full inch, and we're almost there. We have to account for the material that we're gonna use here, which is gonna be another 1/16 of an inch. So 1 1/8 inches is gonna be the depth of our box. And now that I have that measurement, I can go ahead and cut out the 5 sides that I need to make our box. Then we can start tacking it together and see how it all fits up. All right, so I've got the box all welded up. I gotta pull the fender off again so I can make sure this guy fits in there. And then once I'm done making sure that fits, I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting the holes that I need for my bulkheads to fit into it. All right, so this guy fits in there exactly like it should. Boom. All right, so I've got my holes cut out, and I got one of the bulkheads already fitted through. The material I used was a lot thicker than the actual allowance that they have for the collar. So I had to make like a small spacer here out of some 1/8 inch material on the back side to kind of take up some room. So I made sure that the rubber seals tight against this material, so it'll be 100% waterproof seal. I have to make 3 more of these little washers here, and then I'll move forward into welding this guy into the body. All right, got this guy all blended in. Now it's looking like one final piece. All this stuff is gonna be inside the fender. While I finish this up, the guy started prepping our suspension parts for paint.
I'm gonna go ahead and start removing the mill scale off all these link bars and steering arms. That way we can get this stuff ready for paint and coating. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this stuff in some muriatic acid, get it down to bare metal, and then maybe fine sand it with like a 300 grit. And then we should be able to prime it and paint it.
Whew, that stuff is nasty, but as you can see, it took all that mill skill off pretty much immediately. Saves you a lot of time from grinding and sanding it off. My buddy Kyle at the Rustic Nail over in Bowling Green, Kentucky, taught me that trick. So thanks, Kyle. You took a few years off my life, but you saved me a lot of time sanding this stuff down.
All right, we got our frame very close and ready to paint. This truck is gonna be lifted up somewhere around this level. Usually our stuff is slammed down like the 62. You can't even see the frame. However, this one you are. So we're spending a little extra time, a little extra love and detail work to make it look real nice. This was a pretty good heavy coat of a high build primer, which will be blocked down. Just gonna kind of go around, find a couple little spots like this. Hit that with a little putty, get this thing done, coated.
All right, we got our chassis welded, we got it grinded, we got it blended, We got it sanded, we got it blocked, we got it primed. So at this point, we're doing our final little scuff up and we're ready to go ahead and shoot that hot rod satin black. I think it's looking pretty good, man.
All right, so for our top coat on our chassis, we're using a single stage hot rod black. It's a 4 to 1 to 1, so it's 4 parts urethane paint to 1 part catalyst and 1 part reducer. We got our new gun all set up. Instead of buying good guns, we just go buy these cheap ones. Pretty much use them for a project and then throw them away. This is the one we used on Brock 62. See you later. The pot life for this product is a couple hours, so we're gonna go ahead and mix up enough to spray the whole chassis. You come to the 4 to 1 to 1 ratio, 4 parts paint, 1 part to your reducer, and 1 part to the catalyst. We got the frame inside. This thing's gonna cure. Meanwhile, we got some of the other parts that we have to get ready for paint. Front and rear axle housings. Dave's already got the rotors all taped up. And then we have our link bars. And just like that, they start oxidizing. So I'm gonna go ahead and start prepping these things. Tape these up, throw a coat of primer on them. These will be ready to spray. We're gonna be spraying all this stuff gold to match the cab.
We have a bunch of freshly painted parts. So here's our front axle here. Here's our rear on the jack stands. And then we got our chassis, ooh la la, sitting on the chassis table. And then, of course, all of our link arms, shocks, springs, calipers, nice and gold. First step here is we're gonna get this frame off of the frame table, back up on the lift in a position where we can start assembling our link arms into it, bring our rear ends over, and start hooking it up.
Our rolling chassis is finally back on the ground. Color coded, paint matched, and fully reassembled. It's looking great. We've done a ton of work this week on it. We've also done a bunch of work on our cab, inside and outside. Color matched paint on the firewall. I've installed the HVAC unit from Restomod, as well as a custom bulkhead on the side to hide our AC and heater lines. And Mikey also started prepping on our body panels.
I did, Andrew, I did. As I was prepping the stuff to spray our Poppy's satin clear coat, I was trying to get rid of some of the existing clear that was flaking off. And as I was doing so, I ran into this lime green. So Joey gave me a thumbs up to kind of be artsy and create my own patina on this stuff. So that'll be in next episode, as well as we're doing something pretty trick in the bed of this thing. We're gonna be building a custom roll bar, Nerf bar, whatever you guys want to call it. It's gonna be a spot that we can hang our Baja style lights up top, as well as a spare wheel. So Joey wants a 5th wheel for this thing. That way if he's out playing, having fun, and he gets a blowout, he's able to just swap out a whole wheel and call it a day. So that's gonna be pretty cool. So make sure you guys subscribe. If you guys got any questions on what we did in this episode, throw them in the comment section below. Until next time, we'll see you. Peace.